Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Offhand. Today, we're going to be giving you our biggest takeaways from this past Super Bowl between the Chiefs and the Buccaneers. My name is Andy. His name is Chayeb. Sadly, Steven is not with us. He was busy, so his thoughts will not be heard today. Sad, but you will be hearing our thoughts, especially Chayeb's thoughts. Chayeb, what was your biggest takeaway from this Super Bowl?
So two big takeaways I have from this game are that Tom Brady will forever be the GOAT, and I don't think anybody's ever going to match him in that. And the Chiefs were absolutely terrible.
The Chiefs were very, 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 very bad in so many ways, both sides of the ball. I think the only person that did not play bad for the Chiefs was Patrick Mahomes. You know, his
Agree.
stats was not that great. I think
Yeah.
he's the only redeemable person that was on the field for the Chiefs last night. But let's kind of break down why that happened because I kind of agree with your takeaway, but there's definitely more to it. I'll kind
Oh
of bring
yeah,
up my biggest takeaway in a little
definitely.
bit.
Yeah.
But Tom Brady, the GOAT, got a seventh ring. That's 7 for 10. I don't I don't know if we're ever gonna see that again. I don't know if Patrick Mahomes can do that. But talk to me why you think what do you think helped the Buccaneers the most? Like what do you think helped
Okay.
Brady the most, made them win, that type of stuff? What do you think?
Yeah. Well, obviously the Tampa Bay defense did a stellar job of in like the whole game, mostly shutting down Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, not being able, allowing them to even be open for a pass. They did get a lot of targets, both of them, but for the first like three quarters, I think both were under, I think 80 yards, maybe 50 yards
Yeah,
up
it
into the
was
third quarter. And
yeah,
then
like nothing.
then they started moving the ball a little bit, but didn't do much. Um,
Yeah, the defense locked up though. The defense
yeah,
locked up. No one was open though most of the time.
yeah.
And the constant pressure on Mahomes, constant pressure. I actually have a really interesting stat for that. Let me see if I can find it really quick here in my notes. He ran. I want to make sure I phrase it right. So Mahomes totaled 497 yards before throwing the football or being sacked by the Buccaneers defense. 500 yards almost.
My God.
Dude, he was
That's
running for his life the whole game.
yeah, that's it's indicative of what their O line was, which was absolutely non-existent.
And the O line was non existent because they lost Eric Fisher, their O lineman, in the Buffalo Bills game. He tore his Achilles, so there was no chance of him coming to play this game.
Yeah.
And because of that, because he was out, they had to move three position. They had three position changes on the O line. So they had like one backup, and then they moved two O linemen around. So it showed how lost that O line was, especially against such a great defense like the Buccaneers. Kudos to the Buccaneers defense. I think they were the MVP in reality. If you could give the award to the whole defense,
Oh yeah, for sure. If you could give MVP to a whole side of the team, yeah, you'd give it to the defense pretty easily.
yeah, because to keep Patrick Mahomes under 100 yards going into the half, I believe he had 67, if I'm remembering correctly. He had 67 yards going into the half. A guy that
Mm.
dynamic, and he had zero touchdowns to finish the game. Instead, he had two picks, 53% completion. Yo, that was the defense. A lot. That was all the defense. There were some drops. But a lot of it was the defense. A lot
Yeah,
of it
for
was the
sure.
defense. But let's get back to talking about the Buccaneers since they did win in the Buccaneers offense. That's what we were originally talking about. What do you think about Brady's performance? Let's start with Brady. How do you think about Brady's performance?
I think Brady did pretty well for like he didn't do much in the game for like what a winning quarterback usually does. It looks more like the 2019 Super Bowl with
Mm-hmm.
Brady, that it's just barely over 200 yards and one or two touchdowns, and that was it. Even though he got three this game, the 2019, I'm pretty sure he only got one. Um, but he did his job. I don't like he didn't throw any interceptions. There
Yeah,
was a close call where he almost threw an interception, but it got called back as an offsides penalty. But
so many
he,
penalties.
yeah, he's so many. He did he did what he needed to do. He got it where it needed to be, and they won the game because of that.
Yeah,
Partly because of that.
that was my biggest takeaway from the game. My biggest takeaway was that Tom Brady did not have a great game. He had a very efficient game. He had a
Mm,
good game, but it wasn't a great game. It wasn't a performance that would win you the game, but it was definitely a performance that wouldn't lose you the game. It was very he was a game manager. That's how he played pretty much. Super high
yeah.
completion percentage, 72%. Everything he threw was within like 10 yards. Some of that was because he couldn't throw it more than 10 yards. There were a few throws where he tried to throw it past 20 yards almost, and it was just overthrown every single time.
Mm,
And kudos to the receivers. The receivers got open, it felt like every single play.
yeah,
The Chiefs
for
defense
sure.
could not cover them.
No, not. And when they try to, the penalties would be thrown.
Yeah, there
uh,
was over 100 yards in penalties, I believe, for the Chiefs, and I think most of it was the defense.
yeah.
So it was not a good outing for them. But yeah, my biggest takeaway was that Brady did not win the Buccaneers the game. It was definitely the Buccaneers defense as well as the Buccaneers rushing, especially Leonard Fournette. I have a few thoughts on Leonard Fournette, but what do you think about Leonard Fournette and how he played?
I thought he had a good game. I don't think it was. I at least I don't see it in your eyes that it was such a great performance. I see it as a good performance, but I don't see it as like something that stood out to me.
I thought it was a great performance because he had 89 yards, a touchdown. He averaged 7 yards per carry,
Mm,
and he had 46 yards receiving. So he had, if my math is right, 135 yards all purpose.
yeah.
89 plus 46, quick math. Let's go. Um, so that's huge because that's Gronk only had 67 yards. Ronald
Mm,
Jones had 61 yards.
mm,
So Fournette was majority of the offense
yeah.
of what was going on. He really did a little bit of everything, and he was a super efficient too. He set up the passing plays for Brady all the time. Like
Yeah,
he would
he felt
go,
like a James White for Tampa that game.
yeah. And there was a lot of times, or there was at least a few times I remember where he'd get the ball, he'd run for like 20 yards and basically put them like right in front of the end zone. Like he would set them up in the red zone, make it super easy for Brady just to throw a 5 yard pass to score a touchdown, which is how I think all of his touchdowns happened, except for one where I think he threw like a 17-yard pass to like Gronk. I don't
Mm,
remember if it was in the air or not. I think most of it was actually just like in front of him. He just threw it in front of him and Gronk ran it in that far.
yeah.
But I thought Leonard Fournette played a great game. I think if he had a few more yards, he could have been the Super Bowl MVP. That might be a little bit of a hot take, but I think he had an amazing performance, and I think they kind of just gave the Super Bowl MVP to Brady because you can't give it to a whole defense, so they can't do that. And no one really played exceptionally, like exceptionally enough for it to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. There was no one on the defensive like stat line that really stood out anywhere. Like no one stood out. Like the whole defense did great, but when your whole defense is great, usually there won't be someone that stands out, which is honest for at least a team perspective is a good thing.
Yeah, it was a team win. They needed
Yeah.
everybody to play. Everybody played super well. The defense locked up all over the story is the front seven that just kept putting pressure on Mahomes, but they only got 3 sacks, but they did not make Mahomes comfortable, and that helped a lot. But then the corners also covered everybody. The DBs did not let anybody get open, so that's why he only had, was it 26 completions? So
Yeah.
you'd really give it to the defense if you could, but no one stood out. If Devin White had like 3 sacks alone and he had a pick, like a pick six, something like that, easily MVP,
Yeah,
easily.
for sure.
but there's no one else to really give it to. So you probably give it to the quarterback. Tom Brady goes out, wins his seventh ring. That I feel like the narrative was set up for Brady to begin with.
Yeah.
I feel like there was no way he doesn't get it if
Hmm.
there's unless like somebody just had a super crazy game. But I think it was gonna go to Brady either way. I think that was kind of decided pregame if the Bucks won, right?
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
that's what I thought. All right, let's go a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the Chiefs because we haven't touched too much about them.
Yeah.
So we talked a lot about Patrick Mahomes already, but there's other people on that team, obviously.
Oh, for sure.
Obviously. Do you want to talk about the defense first, or you want to talk about the offense first?
I'll talk about the defense. For them, the biggest takeaway was those flags. Most of their flags came off of the defense, and I think most of them were holding calls on the defense. So it just seemed like even if Brady overthrew somebody on a deep pass, they would get a holding penalty because the Chiefs couldn't cover. Yeah, the Chiefs are just making so many mistakes on defense. That really had an effect on them the
They
whole
also
game.
couldn't get any pressure on
Yeah,
Brady
no.
at all. Brady could just sit back there for as long as he wanted and just throw it comfortably. Comfortably. He hardly had to move, hardly had to do anything. And half the time his passes were like right up the middle where he could just throw an easy check down. And it was money every time on a drag, a slant route, a little hitch by the running back. It was easy. It was super easy for him. That O line held up beautifully against the Chiefs D line, which is probably their strongest part of their defense, right?
Yeah. Yeah, their strongest part is their D line for sure.
Yeah, because their linebackers are eh. Their
Mm,
corners are pretty decent when they want to be, I feel like. But their D line is probably their best attribute. But they
mm.
they just couldn't do anything against that Bucks O line. That Bucks O line held up tight. All right, let's go to the offensive side of the ball. What do you think about the receivers, about Kelsey and Hill?
I thought they had decent games, but Kelsey was only catching stuff on the field and not like in the end zone where he needed it. Tyreek, like both of them, if this was a normal game, both of them had good games for what they well, like their themselves, but it
For sure.
wasn't they couldn't win off of it because none of them scored anything. So they had good games. Kelsey had 133 yards.
Yeah,
That's a great game for a tight end.
that's an
And
amazing game for a tight end.
yeah,
Amazing game for a
so
tight end. And they weren't like dink
seeing
and dunk stuff either. Like,
oh no, it was definitely much more than dink and dunk like
yeah,
Brady. But yeah, them not being able to get open in like the first half because that first half none of them were getting open for anything.
the
It
Chiefs couldn't do
opened up for them.
anything,
Yeah, it
anything in the
opened
first
up for
half.
them in the second half. And that's when they got most of their yards and it was already too late by then and they just weren't scoring.
This is my theory, right? This is my theory because I remember it happening in the second half. I don't,
Mhm.
I didn't look at the stats. I don't remember the stats very well, but just kind of off the brain and what I remembered is when they came out of the second half, they ran the ball like three times in a row with Clyde. Then they threw a pass or
Mm.
two, and then they ran in there like three, four times. It felt like with Clyde, they were running the
Yeah.
ball a lot coming out in the second half, and it was working. It was working pretty well, and then they just abandoned it. They just completely abandoned it. So, like how you're saying, how they were able to get a little bit more offense going. I think that was their problem is they just didn't run the ball enough to really get it going. Maybe it's because they didn't trust the O line. Maybe that was a factor because they see that Patrick Mahomes is running for his life. So why are we going to run the ball? Man, I feel
Mm.
like they really should have given the ball to Clyde more. What do you think?
No, yeah, I do too. I you saying that reminded me when they came out in the second half that I was like, "Oh no, here comes Clyde," because he was
Yeah,
just easily running it up the middle for like at least 5 yards, 5 yards each carry, and
yeah,
they then I wasn't afraid anymore because they stopped doing it.
yeah. That's why Clyde finished the game with 9 carries, 64 yards. He was averaging 7.1 yards a carry. It's like I don't know why they didn't
Yeah.
just keep. I could understand in the first half because you're trying to figure things out, whatever. But in the second half, I was like he showed you like, hey, it's like I am an option on this team. I know I'm a rookie, but give me a couple carries, see if we can get the defense to focus on me at least a little bit, and then we can free up some passes for Mahomes. And it worked out. Then Andy Reid just abandoned it. He just completely
Yeah,
abandoned it. And I think Reid got really outcoached as well this game by Bruce Arians.
for
He
sure.
he really did because he made a lot of that offense just seemed completely out of sorts. I feel like they ran a bunch of screen passes, the the Chiefs, and I think that just made no sense. I think that just made completely no sense. What do you think
Yeah,
about how that scheme
yeah, I
was
would
and
agree.
everything?
There was a lot of passes behind the line of scrimmage,
Mm-hmm.
and I would agree. They're like for their type of offense, it's really weird that they were trying to do that. I because from what I remember McCole Hardman getting a lot of those passes and him either just dropping the
Yeah,
ball or catching it and not moving a yard up. They'd lose yardage on the play. And they kept doing it. And it was like, okay, you've done this so many times already during this game and it hasn't worked. Why do you keep repeating it?
yeah.
And I
I
don't
guess
know.
they were just trying to get the ball out fast, but
Hmm.
obviously it just didn't work at all. Maybe they should have just tried to do what the Buccaneers were doing, try to do more slant routes, try to do more drags, just try to get more stuff right in front of Patrick Mahomes so you could get the ball out in like a second or two, and that would have been better. And they mentioned on the broadcast, that's why I'm gonna bring this up now, that the Buccaneers defense was in a too high safety look. So basically they were covering the deep ball. And I think they said it was like over 80% of the game they were in
Yeah, most of the
that
yeah,
formation.
most of the game you can see those two safeties just standing so far away and just waiting.
Yeah, 'cause they were
Yeah.
terrified. They were terrified of
Hmm.
Tyreek Hill. When we talked about this, when we were talking about the Super Bowl before the game, we brought up that game that Tyreek Hill had against the Buccaneers. We had over 200 yards in the first quarter.
Yep.
Bruce Arians remembered that. He didn't want that to happen again. So he made sure to take the deep ball away, and the Chiefs just kept on trying it. That's why every time
Mm,
Patrick Mahomes threw the ball deep, the guy was almost double covered almost every single time.
yep.
So that's why they couldn't really get any big plays going. So I guess he just thought, it's like, all right, we can't go the big play. We're gonna throw the ball behind the line of scrimmage, but that made no sense. And then
Mm,
in the Bills game, they didn't even go deep that much. They showed that they can produce an offense within 10 yards. So I don't really know what happened to Andy Reid. I think I have an idea of what might have happened, but I want to hear what you think about all that.
yeah. Again, when Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce in this game, when they started getting their yards, like what they are at the end of the game, it was in the second half. And honestly, they did try to get Tyreek even shorter because I think they made like a 20-yard pass that he ran for more than 35 yard. Like he ran 35 yards, so 15 more yards on like once he caught it. And I was surprised they didn't keep trying to do that,
Yeah,
considering how the short game was working out for them a little bit or a lot better.
yeah, just give it to him and run. The guy's the
Yeah.
fastest man on the field. Hit him on a quick pass and let him run, do his thing. Same thing with Travis Kelce. Hit him on a short pass, let him run, do his thing. Travis Kelce
Yeah,
is a mismatch for 90% of tight ends, 90% of linebackers in the league. It's like the guy can go out and do it.
for
But
sure.
I think another factor that's off the field that I don't think people really factored into this game, that people didn't really put too much thought into, um, was Andy Reid's son.
Hmm.
Do you hear the story about what happened with Andy Reid's
Yeah,
son?
yeah, yeah, I heard about it.
Yeah. So just in case the viewers you don't know about it, Andy Reid's son, who's actually on the coaching staff, he's a linebackers coach, I believe. His son got into a car accident on, I believe, Saturday, the day before the game, either
Yeah,
Saturday or Friday, something like that. It was really close to the game. And in the car accident, he was pretty fine, but he injured two girls. Both of them went to the hospital, and one of them ended up in critical condition. So thank God, at least both of them are alive. Everything's okay there. I heard a rumor that the Andy Reid's son might have been a little bit intoxicated while driving, and that was the cause of it. So even though everyone's alive, I'm these people are still human. So that was probably weighing on Andy Reid's mind during the game, that if his son was okay, if those girls are okay, and I think that's where his head was, and that's why he just couldn't really make the right decisions, because he just wasn't focused and locked in as much as he needed to be for such a big game.
Yeah, I would agree. Any tragedy would be very hard to handle, even like in any circumstance, and to like have it happen just a few days before like the biggest game of the year, I don't doubt could have affected Andy Reid.
Yeah, because this isn't like it's not really like a tragedy where it's like a loved one died. Because
Yeah.
usually when something like that happens, you'll hear the players, you hear the coaches talk about it and be like, oh, it's like I wanted to win this game for them, and they use it as motivation. But it's like in this situation, it's like you're just happy the worst didn't happen.
Mm.
Where that they it could have been a way worse situation. So they were probably just trying to figure out a bunch of different stuff. So I think that's kind of a off the field battle that Andy Reid was fighting, that no one really talked about, that no one really mentioned during the game, and how that would affect everything. Because I think it showed. I think it definitely showed. Andy Reid is a very smart coach, very good at scheming, very good at game planning, and it did not show that game at all. Oh, let's go a little bit back real quick. So we mentioned this is the end of the video basically.
Mm.
Uh, but I feel like credit should be given where credit is due. We all picked in the last video that we did before the Super Bowl who we thought was gonna win, which quarterback we take. I want to give kudos to Chaev and Steven. They both had the Buccaneers. They both
Yep.
had Tom Brady. So kudos to them. I chose Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. To be fair, I did say I wouldn't be surprised if the Buccaneers would win. But if the Buccaneers were to win, Tom Brady wouldn't be the one to carry them. It would be the defense and the run game. And that is what
Mm.
happened. So I do get partial credit, I feel like. Definitely not full credit. I was definitely wrong. I was hedging my
Yeah.
bets, which isn't great, but I think I do get a little bit of credit, at least on that. But
Good halvesies.
but kudos to them. Is there any last thoughts, Tribe?
No, not that I have.
No? All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching this episode of The Offhand. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. Check us out for more content. Putting out videos like this weekly pretty much. We also have some documentaries on the channel and some players that are really cool. So watch those. Comment if you want us to do different players. Comment what we should talk about next. Now that we're going to the off season pretty much for the NFL, there's already a lot to talk about. But let us know what you want to hear. Check us out on Instagram and Twitter. Gonna put the handle in the description. And thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye.